The following is from the book God at Geylang, His Stories in Singapore's Red Light District, authors Debbie Zhang and Tan Lei Ling, read by Angelina Cheng and Clarence Lim. All rights reserved by House of Olive Leaf Limited.
Chapter 5 House of Olive Leaf, Changi Center. The name House of Olive Leaf, inspired from Genesis chapter 8 verse 11, spelled hope for the ministry. Then the dove came to him in the evening, and behold, a freshly plucked olive leaf was in her mouth. And Noah knew that the waters had receded from the earth. Genesis chapter 8 verse 11.
God's amazing provision for the startup of House of Olive Leaf encouraged us. In 2009, we sent our first ex-Geylang lady to a center in China, but we encountered many challenges. As we sorted out many issues, we were convinced that we should instead set up a halfway house by Geylang Ministry itself for ex-Geylang ladies. When I brought up the idea to Joe, the Youth with a Mission YWAM-based director who oversaw Geylang Ministry at that time, he said casually that we might need $30,000, which should be sufficient for us to build our own center in China.
Why exactly $30,000?
I then thought of going back to my church to raise this fund. Not knowing about this need, Pastor Vanaja asked if she could meet me after 2 weeks because she was busy with one particular event at that period. I then had a strange feeling that God would pour in the sum from other sources. Amazingly, after 1 week, a friend of mine called to inform me that he had prepared 2 checks for us.
If it is urgent, please come to my home to collect the checks. Otherwise, I will pass them to you this Sunday after church service,
he had said. 2 days before my appointment with Pastor Vanaja, I received 2 checks from this brother. One amounted to $30,000 for the ministry, but for the other, the payee was left blank. Following the donor's suggestion, I banked it into my own account as I understood it to be a comfort from God from a recent loss of my diamond necklace when I was in Geylang. The brother later told me that he had initially wanted to put his donation only in 1 check after hearing from Kelvin that our family's financial health was fine. But when he started to write the first check, he felt very strongly from God that he needed to separate the amount. Not knowing why, he nevertheless obeyed by leaving the payee blank in the second check, leaving the discretion of its use to me. Since then, there were several times where I was so tempted to step down from the ministry, especially during the times of discouragement and the pressure from my non-Christian mom, who lamented that I had failed to repay my parents' hard work in raising me as a graduate. Why exactly $30,000? I would question God many times. The donor knew neither our plans nor our needs. Any amount more or less, or simply put the 2 amounts in 1 check, and I would have excuses to walk away from the Geylang work as I had wished. It could only be God. This miracle of God convinced me that I should not step down until the halfway house was established. The way God led us to the venue for the center in Changi was also nothing short of a miracle. It took 2 years for Geylang Ministry to explore the possibility of setting up the center in the ladies' home countries, but we later realized God wanted it to happen in Singapore instead. It took another 2 years for us to seek God about the center location, which we believed was to be in Changi. Another divine revelation came in June 2013 when the team sought God again together for the center. Joanne received the 2 digits 97. But God kept silent to a question on what it was all about. Both Kelvin and I saw a long house with many rooms. It puzzled us, since we only intended to run the center on a small scale at the beginning stage. Why did God give us a big house then? In October 2013, I had a dream about a big playground. It was so vivid that I woke up and could not shake off what I saw. Kelvin then, after his work, went to Changi to find if there was a big playground, spotting one in Mariam Way. The team came together to seek God further, and he seemed to be silent. Later, when Joanne visited the area, she suddenly had the revelation about 97. It was the first two digits of bus stop numbers beginning from Upper Changi Road North to Old Tampines Road and New Loyang Link. In this area, there was a huge landed property named Loyang Villas, resembling the long terrace houses in the vision received by Kelvin and me.
Yes to everything I requested.
God continued to guide us in our decision-making regarding the center in Changi. My kids' schooling needs were settled within 1 hour, which was amazing in itself. You must understand that even with God's given vision, I did not totally embrace it with full enthusiasm. House moving was never a good idea for my family since it would pose great challenges to my kids' education. Furthermore, God never spoke clearly whether my family should move into the center. Kelvin and I had that idea only because we hoped to cut costs by renting out our flat to offset the center's rental, and at the same time, making it convenient for me to serve. I told the team that if all my kids' schooling needs were settled, I would then believe that God was indeed leading us to make the center happen during this season. It was the last week of school, hardly possible for David to transfer to any school, as we were told earlier that no space was available. Furthermore, there was also no vacancy for my younger son Peter in Clementi Wood, a Christian kindergarten in the West, even for the year after. Hence, I dared not dream of my two younger ones, Luke and Peter, enrolling into a church kindergarten in Changi in such a last-minute arrangement. Surprisingly, when Kelvin went to a school near Loyang Villas to submit David's application form, the staff said that David should be accepted after seeing his primary 2 results. Within half an hour, the school called Kelvin and confirmed that David was accepted and asked us to settle all the transfers immediately because the school would close in the next 2 days. At the same time, I called a church kindergarten in Changi, and the principal picked up the call. She said yes to everything I requested for Luke and Peter. That morning in January 2014, before I signed the letter of intent to rent the Changi house, I spent some time with God alone, asking Him to give me more confirmations that it was His leading instead of my own decision. He led me to read Psalm 118, in which every verse is His assurance and promise about this new venture. So, the House of Olive Leaf Changi Center finally happened after 4 years of seeking and planning. However, it also meant great commitments and challenges my family and Geylang ministry team would face in 2014. I thank God that He had provided new team members. God also provided a swing for my children who would otherwise feel so bored. God's ways are always higher than ours, always beyond our own understanding. House of Olive Leaf began to serve the needs of the Geylang ladies since 2014.
Changi Center, mission confirmed.
We moved to Changi on 26 December 2013, which marked the beginning of House of Olive Leaf. Back in 2011, we had helped a local lady, Surya, out of prostitution by sponsoring her $50 daily to come to my house to bake cookies. At that time, we would share with her about God to encourage her to face the life challenges positively. She would be in high spirits each time after spending the whole day in my home, but she would face many distractions when left on her own. After 1 month, Surya went back to prostitution when her boyfriend found another Geylang lady to support him. That convinced me that the ladies must stay in a center to go through a 24-hour in-house discipleship program so as to minimize the distractions they face.
The first ladies at House of Olive Leaf, Melati and Amisha.
When we first met Melati and Amisha, they had been held in Singapore for 9 months. Each time the two ladies would shed tears whenever they met us in the streets and confided in us. To raise their spirits, I decided to bring them to tour Gardens by the Bay. Getting away from the streets of Geylang would bring some joy in their hearts and grant them strength to carry on with their lives. Melati and Amisha thoroughly enjoyed themselves, taking much delight smelling the flowers and taking pictures with my 2-year-old youngest son, Peter. During our breakfast together, Amisha showed me the photograph of her 35-year-old mother and 3-year-old brother. While I looked at their desperate and hopeless faces in the photographs, I knew what I must do. Despite the fact that there are no stay-in staff to assist me yet, and my family was still getting used to the new environment, I felt God's peace to take Melati and Amisha into the House of Olive Leaf.
The first challenge.
The landlord was so shocked when the property agent updated her that Melati and Amisha were holding special pass. She questioned why the ladies needed to report to the Immigration Checkpoint Authority Enforcement Division and why the address was in Kallang. She could not even mention Geylang. While waiting for the landlord's reply, I asked the team to intercede, and God reminded me that He was the one who led us to rent this house so He would make clear the path. Amazingly, the landlord agreed to let them stay in after my explanation that they were the group of the people that we were helping with our initial purpose in renting her house. God answered our prayers. As long as the ladies are given the permission to stay in Singapore and on humanitarian ground, I have no reason to worry, the landlord had said.
From 44 cookies to 360 cookies.
It was definitely beyond me to disciple Melati and Amisha without a staying staff while still needing to take care of my 3 young kids. But God did take the full responsibility to teach me and the team that He is sovereign and He would make the impossible possible. My family, including my helper, did not feel stressed during the 2 ladies' stay-in. Rather, we were blessed by them, though sometimes it was challenging to be firm in enforcing certain rules with them. During the first week, Melati and Amisha, who had gotten used to their Geylang life, could not wake up at all at 7 a.m. as requested. It took more than half a day for them to read. They baked only 44 pieces of their first batch of cookies in 6 hours, and we had to throw away all of them due to bad quality. Things completely turned around after 1 month. They could wake up at 6:30 a.m. on their own and even had time to go out with me for morning exercise and complete the added daily workloads before the 9:30 a.m. Bible study. They could do their daily Bible reading within 1 hour, pray, and prepare each day's worship songs before we started the daily training. As for their baking, they easily baked 360 pieces of tasty cookies within 5 hours. God was certainly in this with us. Each time when they learned a new skill and succeeded, they would take photographs and upload them onto the Facebook page to share with their friends and families. The most amazing part was, without my prompting, they would put away their handphones so as to concentrate on their daily routines in the House of Olive Leaf.
Amisha's story.
Since young, Amisha and her family were looked down by their fellow villagers because they were poor. When she was 20 years old, a young man from her neighboring village showed interest in her. Her family granted his request to take Amisha to Batam to work since she was not able to find a job in the village. Love was sweet in the beginning, but it turned out to be a disaster after a 5-month courtship in Batam. The boyfriend sold her to a Geylang agent, baiting her with the story of working in Singapore for a higher pay. Only upon arrival did Amisha realize that she needed to sell her body, and worse still, without pay, because all her income had to be used to clear her debt, which are the agent fees. She was caught in an anti-vice raid after 2 weeks of working in Geylang. However, her hope to return home was gone, because she was needed as a witness to testify against her agent. To support herself, she had to continue working in Geylang. To add salt to injury, her ex-boyfriend posted her nude photographs on her Facebook after she refused to give him money. There had been too much pain and shame that Amisha had to bear till the day she met Jesus. Amisha had prayed to welcome Jesus into her heart during our Geylang outreach. But it was the day she moved to stay in the House of Olive Leaf that Amisha acknowledged her Christian faith. Like Melati, Amisha began to weep when she first stepped into a church Sunday service, feeling that it was time for her to pour out all her pains instead of holding them tightly. Unable to stop crying, she covered her face when she went forward for prayer. On the second Sunday, she was so overwhelmed by the presence of God that in her dream she saw Jesus in white, and he had a very long conversation with her. Ever since then, Amisha seemed to have no problem in Bible reading. Her daily study showed such depth of understanding that we were all amazed at her progress. Though Amisha was a slow learner, she was enthusiastic in learning new things. During one period, I noticed that she was not emotionally stable, and I found out later that she was affected by the Facebook nude photographs, downloaded and uploaded again on the internet by Inda, another Geylang lady, to shame Amisha. We made a report to the police as well as to Facebook, and both Facebook accounts of Amisha and Inda were since removed. Amisha was able to smile again, and her family in Indonesia also felt relieved. She learned to pray to God in the assignments given to her, though at the beginning she had no confidence to take them up. Her self-esteem was built up that even she herself was amazed that she could achieve the impossible with Jesus' help. This is Amisha's testimony in her baptism application form. I became lazy after I could not find a job in my kampong village. Now I have been healed from anger and hatred towards the people I used to be angry with. I am no longer lazy, and I have a heart to work hard and learn more. I am happy to learn about God and the Bible, and I feel joy living in Debbie's house and learn from her and the team. I want to become a better person, and I am grateful for everything that God has done for me. My heart will follow Jesus and will not change.
Melati's story.
Melati was born in a Christian family, but she was not walking with Jesus. She came to Batam in 2006 and never went back home because she resented her parents who was strongly against her having any non-Christian boyfriends. Being the only child who did not go through university education, she felt unfairly treated by her parents. She came to work willingly in Geylang after her family went through a financial crisis, hoping to prove to her parents that she was more capable than her other siblings. However, she was caught just after 5 days of arrival in Singapore. I have been very tired after working in Geylang for 9 months, Melati shared, in response to why she had decided to end her Geylang street life and come to stay in the House of Olive Leaf. Melati said that it was only on those hopeless days that she began crying out to Jesus, the God of her family, and she believed Jesus heard her prayer and led her to us. Though Melati was very intelligent and a fast learner, it was not an easy journey to disciple her. She turned out to be very rebellious whenever she was not in a good mood. She would also make up stories when I questioned her the real reason of their late return after they reported to the authorities to extend their visa. There had been a few times I told the team that I would ask her to leave if she refused to change. It seemed that Melati was jealous of Amisha, who could see Jesus in her dream, so she would discourage Amisha whenever she was picking up a new skill. I had told Melati many times that she had leadership qualities, but she needed to show more consideration towards others. It was only through a few counseling sessions and the team's fervent prayers that Melati eventually changed her attitude. When we finally got to know that she actually had a Geylang boyfriend, I did not ask her to leave House of Olive Leaf because I could see that she was determined to end that relationship. During their first month's stay in the House of Olive Leaf, the ladies only made 1,730 pieces of cookies in 21 days for our Geylang outreach, likely because they were new, but also Melati's hard attitude was not positive. However, when I later assigned them to make 2,000 pieces of cookies within 5 days for Church of Our Saviour Sunday School children, Melati displayed her leadership qualities, waking up in the early mornings to plan. She was rather happy when she saw their daily tasks being achieved. Because I prayed to Jesus, she said. For many mornings, Melati woke up at 5 a.m. to study the Bible and pray. God honored her heart's desire and spoke to her through dreams too. In her baptism application form, Melati testified, I used to feel hurt, disappointed, and hold grudges against my family. Now I feel that my attitude was wrong and I miss them very much. I want to reconcile with them. I desire to follow God, and I will always be thankful and grateful to God for everything He has given me. I am much happier now after knowing Debbie and her team. I want to read the Bible and seek God's face every day so as to continue the joy in my life.
Footnote.
Melati and Amisha stayed in the House of Olive Leaf for 3 months. They returned to their home country after their court cases miraculously came to the end. House of Olive Leaf Changi Center served Geylang ladies between 2014 and 2015, hosting other street ladies and brothel ladies including Lina and Ting Ting. This book, God at Geylang, documents stories of the Creator God who loves deeply every single life He creates, including the marginalized and downcast people group at Geylang. It is our prayer that you will be blessed by these stories. As God loves this special group of people, He loves you too. For this entire book of 12 chapters, or for this book in other languages, visit us at geylangministry.com.